Talking diamonds today with Lithoquest Diamonds. Lithoquest trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange as LDI. And I've got with me now the president and CEO, Bruce Counts. Bruce has over 25 years experience in international diamond exploration. Hey Bruce, appreciate you taking some time with me here. Diamond exploration in Australia, certainly an interesting proposition. Why don't we take a step back and retrace the company here, how it was founded and what the pathway to profitability is for LDI.
Sure. So the company is relatively new. It was formed specifically to acquire and explore the North Kimberley Diamond Project, which is located in Western Australia, in the very north part of Western Australia. We had the project's actually accessible by a seasonal road, and it's right on tidewater as well. So it from a logistics perspective, it's while it's remote, it's very accessible. But the reason we acquired the project was based on some work that had been done by a colleague of mine back in 2007, when he'd been up doing just some prospecting, looking for all the old kimberlite finds up in that neck of the woods in that part of Australia. So kimberlite being kimberlite's the primary source for diamond, and it's just a small volcano that brings diamonds to surface. But what's important to know is that kimberlites almost always occur in clusters or fields, right? So it might be less than 10 kimberlites in a field, or it can be more than 100. So the size of a field can vary. Anyway, my colleague was up in 2007 looking for some old kimberlite finds that had been found in the 1970s up on our project area, and collected some rocks that he thought that might be kimberlite. This is an area where the rocks are really weathered, and so it's really hard to tell what they were originally, but it had the kind of the right textures for kimberlite. He was in the right area based on what his readings and research had been. So he collected some rocks, got in his helicopter and went on his merry way, sent those rocks in for analysis. And the mineral chemistry of what we call kimberlite indicator minerals, so those are just minerals that are very specific to kimberlite, was amongst the best I've seen in my career. So I've been involved in diamonds since the 1990s. I was part of the team that found Canada's first diamond mine, which is called a caddy. And one of the best ways as explorers that we can tell whether or not a kimberlite's likely to have diamonds, because not all kimberlites will have diamonds, and certainly not all kimberlites that do have diamonds will have economic quantities. So the best way we have to determine whether or not a field is likely to be diamond-bearing and how diamond-bearing it might be is to look at the chemical composition of those indicator minerals. And these were amongst the best I've seen. They're very similar to what we saw in the Lac de Gras area, which is where Acadie's located. So I got really excited. Mike had collected these samples back in 2007. He didn't get his analysis back until sort of mid-2008, just in time for the global financial crisis. So that information effectively fell by the wayside, and the project went fallow, and nothing happened until Mike showed me those results when we were having a coffee in 2016. And as I mentioned, they were amongst the best I'd seen. So, at that time, we decided we would form a private company that would acquire this project, and then we would go in there, reproduce those results that he, collected sort of 10 years previously, and then see where we got. So we did that, and we went to the two targets that my colleague had collected rocks. Now, again, I want to back up in just a second, because he collected rocks here in this part of Australia. So we're talking about a part of the world that's seen no glaciation for several 100 million years. So that means the only thing moving stuff around here is wind and water. So if you're picking up rocks that have kimberlite indicator minerals in them, they're almost certainly going to be weathered kimberlite, and you're also going to be very close to the source, because you don't have a lot of topographic relief here, very flat. In fact, where he found these rocks was up on top of a plateau, higher than the surrounding plain. And so, the logical explanation for having rocks up there with indicator minerals is that you've got a kimberlite that's shedding that into the local environment. So, we went in, we collected rocks in the same two places that my colleague had collected in 2007. But we also went to a couple of different targets that I had identified just in some of the, reviewing old data that had been collected on the project area. And so collected some more rocks in 2 different targets. And we wound up with kimberlite indicator minerals in all 4 of those different locations. And they all had, the indicator minerals all had what we call diamond inclusion chemistry. So in other words, they indicate that the kimberlites had sampled a diamondiferous mantle, or certainly a mantle that has the potential to have diamonds in it. So pretty exciting stuff. That gave us the confidence to take the company to the market and do a reverse takeover to get it launched publicly, which we did. That actually happened at the end of November in 2017, and we raised $5 million at that stage. So, fast forward, we went into the field in 2018. Now, the field season here in northwestern Australia is about, realistically, from the beginning of May until the end of October and into November. You can work all year round, but between the end of end of mid-November to the end of April is what's called the wet season. And so you can work during that wet season. It's just very hot, and the weather's a little bit inclement. So from a early stage exploration perspective, the ideal season to operate is May to the end of October. So we went in 2018 with our first program. We did a drill program. We tested 5 different targets, and we discovered a kimberlite. So, and that in itself is a huge achievement. Kimberlites are very difficult to discover. They're rare discoveries. So, to discover a kimberlite in our very first field season was fantastic, like a very exciting outcome for us. In fact, I believe it's the first bona fide kimberlite discovered in Australia in about 20 years. So, pretty big achievement for the company in its first year on the project, and really reinforced that hypothesis that we had, which was, there looks like there's got to be a field of diamond-bearing kimberlites up here that nobody's discovered yet. So, pretty strong evidence that that's the case. Now, we had that kimberlite that we discovered in 2018 analyzed for diamond content, and it came back with no diamonds. And obviously, that was a big disappointment for the market, and that's reflected in our share price. But I think what's important to understand is I mentioned, that kimberlites occur in clusters, and they, in general, less than 10% of kimberlites in a productive field, for example, a Caddy or Diavik is another diamond mine in Canada, less than 10% of those kimberlites are economic. And that's generally, as a rule of thumb, in any productive field, less than 10% will be productive. And in fact, in most fields, there will always be some barren kimberlites. And in a Caddy, the vast majority are sub-economic and to weakly diamondiferous. So, to find the first kimberlite you find in the field, to have it be barren was not a big surprise, albeit a very big disappointment to the market. From a technical perspective, it was a reinforcement that, yeah, look, we're onto something. We then went on to have that kimberlite dated as well. So when did it erupt? And it erupted about 220 million years ago. And that's significant because that's 600 million years younger than any of the other kimberlites that had been found sort of in this district. There's a field called the Ashmore Field of kimberlites. It's about 30 kilometers away. So, we're 600 million years younger than that nearest field of kimberlites. We're also 30 kilometers away. And on top of that, the kimberlite, the textures of the rock, the kind of kimberlite that it is very different. So now we've got pretty strong evidence that this is a new field of kimberlites. We've got diamonds all over this plateau, all done in that kimberlite that we drilled. But there are diamonds have been discovered, through various sampling programs historically up on top of this plateau I've been talking about over the course of 40 years, and including a 1.73 carat diamond, which was discovered probably 2 or 3 decades ago, but came in at $740 a carat, so a nice gem quality stone. And again, if you're getting diamonds up on top of a plateau where there's been no glaciation, the logical conclusion is you've got kimberlites that are shedding those into the local environment, same kimberlites that are shedding the boulders that we're finding. So again, when we discovered that kimberlite and it's got all these different properties of the nearest field, we're pretty confident that we're sitting on a brand new field of diamond-bearing kimberlite.
Let's talk about that field program and why investors would want to pay attention to Lithoquest right now.
Sure. It's a 2-phase program. So we're now armed with a signature for kimberlite on this area, if you will. So we know what geophysically what we should be looking for. We've identified several areas with between geophysics, geochemistry, and geospatial analysis. We've identified 20 priority areas on the project where we believe they're likely to be a diamond-bearing kimberlite. So the goal of the project, or the objective of the 2019 program, is to go in and in phase 1 and evaluate those 20 different target areas and select the best ones for drilling. And then in phase 2 is where we'll go in and we'll actually drill the best targets that have come out of that sort of first phase of evaluation. So we've got these 20 areas. We're armed with the information that we need to look. What do we need to look for to find kimberlite on the property? We've identified these 20 areas. Now let's go in and evaluate them. We'll be doing ground geophysics, prospecting, and sampling to really narrow down and prioritize exactly where we want to drill and what we want to drill. And the drilling program will probably start in August and run through into September. In terms of results, there's sort of 2 stages of results. The first of all is the identification of kimberlite. So, unlike a gold system or a copper system where it's a very large geological system, kimberlite, when you're drilling for kimberlite, you either hit a kimberlite or you don't hit a kimberlite. So you get this sort of yes or no result from, did I hit kimberlite in my drill program? So that would be the first set of news to come out of the drill program this year. And then if we are fortunate enough to hit kimberlite in some of the targets that we do drill, we will send that off for diamond analysis. And when you're sending off a small sample, so a couple of 100 kilos, maybe up to a ton of material for diamond analysis, what you're doing is what's called micro-diamond analysis. So you're looking for really very small diamond, specks of diamond, to give you an indication, first of all, that there is a diamond, the kimberlite is diamond bearing. But also you're going to look at the size distribution of those diamonds that you recover from the kimberlite, and that'll tell you whether or not you're likely to have larger diamonds. Of course, it's the large stones that really sell the tickets in any diamond project. Those micro-diamond results we would be looking for probably in Q4 for any kimberlites that we discover in the 2019 program. So Q4 would be where we would be seeing those diamond results. So that, again, the 2 catalysts really for driving value are first the discovery of kimberlite, and then the results from any kimberlites that were discovered.
Sure. So you've laid out my next question is, what is the reason for investors to get involved here with LDI? I know you have a nice stake in the company. Sure. As well. So in closing, why don't you give your plea to the investing public who has a lot of opportunities, a lot of choices, why would they choose LDI?
Well, sure, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things that go into a really successful exploration play. I mean, and again, we're in early stage exploration, which is greenfields exploration, so it's obviously high risk, but the corollary is it can be very high reward. There's a couple of great examples. Diamet Minerals had a 29% stake in Canada's first diamond mine, Acadie, and their stock went from 65 cents to $65 in a matter of 18 months. And that was through this whole discovery process, which is exactly where we are now. So to come to, what makes us special? Well, I think we've got technically we've got a fantastic project. We've all of the technical information that leads a diamond explorer to think favorably of a diamond project exists on this project. So from that perspective, we've got a really good foundation. But it's more than that in terms of what makes a great exploration play. You've got to have the right project and the right ground, the possibility of discovery. But you also have to have a really good corporate structure. And Lithoquest is still new. We financed once when we went public in 2017. We still have a very tight corporate structure. We've got some fantastic and very supportive shareholders, which include Eric Sprott and Warren Irwin. Warren runs a fund called Rosso Asset Management out of Toronto. And so, we've got great shareholders. It's very tightly held. We've got a limited number of shares outstanding. So a discovery, really will be able to help, push the market cap of the company quickly because it's so tightly held. Great corporate structure, great shareholders. And then we've got a technical team that's very experienced. I'd like to think that we are, have assembled amongst the best in the business and certainly comparable to any of my peers in terms of the quality of the people who are working on this project.
Okay. Well, don't hang up there, but I want to get a good send off for you here. But that was a fantastic update. So that was Bruce Counts, President, CEO, Lithoquest Diamonds. That's LDI and the Toronto Venture Exchange. Hey, Bruce, we certainly appreciate the information here, and we'll look forward to keeping an eye on you guys here moving forward. Okay, Bruce Counts, President, CEO, Lithoquest Diamonds. That's LDI and the Toronto Venture Exchange. Hey, Bruce, appreciate that update, and we'll certainly look forward to tracking any news you might have in the future.
Thank you.